Think about where you live. What were some of the considerations around why you chose that particular house to call home? For some of us, the answer will be because it made you feel safe. It was what you could afford, or it met the needs of you as an individual. Whatever the reason, today in America, you have the right to live in communities that align with your financial resources, family values, and allows you to exercise your freedoms as an American citizen. Angela grew up in North Carolina, where she attended North Carolina Central University before eventually relocating to Washington, D.C. with her husband, a real estate developer and serial entrepreneur. This podcast is their story of love, fulfillment, and the unfortunate strife that stems from racial prejudices. While many of us learned to love thy neighbor from the best-selling book in the world, life after the purchase of their dream home felt more like a warped nightmare that echoed actions of hate and fell short of feeling any love from their neighbors. This 3-part podcast will highlight the backstory of Angela and Prince's story, describe what it's like to be Black in a white house, and round out with the journey to justice. So let's fast forward to current day. And why were you even on the market for a new home in the DC metropolitan area?
I would say we were, because we at what point?
At the point, current day.
I would say we ended up in the current house that we're in now. It was the house we was in previously. It wasn't the dream home. I inadvertently, my mom had passed away, and my dad had to downsize one of their homes. And before my dad is in the house now, where I grew up in the Landover, Palm Park area, we moved in it. She wasn't really with it, but I said, well, look, I want to help my dad out. So let's move in, let's help him, because we rented out the house that the kids grew up in, and we were trying to get closer to their schools. So I didn't want to buy it, and because we were renting, I said, well, let's go help my dad out. So we were there. We stayed maybe about 9 months. That was as much as Angela could take, because it was the hood. People, they were acting the fool. So she couldn't take it, and so I had to, and I'm up next. So I said, okay. I said, well, look, just go pick out the house. I got the pre-approval. I said, well, just go pick out the house. So she picked out a house, not the house that we're in now, but it was a previous house. So we moved there, and we were living there for about 4 years or so. And we went to go visit some of my family in Indiana. And when we went to go see some of my family in Indiana, they own like crazy amount of acres, 500. They farm, they got houses and all kinds of stuff. And Angela saw that, and once she saw it, she was like, I want something like that.
That's what exposure will do.
Yeah, and so, and seeing how they live, and my blood, and I heard about it, but I never been. It was a family reunion. I went out, and once we seen how beautiful it was, and how everybody had nice houses, and they selling their soybean, the corn to China, and they got businesses and everything, I almost cried, because I thought something was wrong with me. But when I seen what they were doing.
And how old were you around that time?
I think I was like 40 some years old.
No,
I was
but
like 40. I was about 45 years old.
Okay.
When I actually saw what they had.
What was possible.
Yeah. They got together. It was brothers. These my father family, and so they in Indiana. And when she saw that, she said, "Now I see, where you come from." And once we came back, she was like, "I want to go." She wanted to take it to a whole nother level. So I bought some acreage, and then while I was going to build a couple of acres, I was going to build a house. And while we were searching, she found this house, online.
Right. So we were the reason why we were looking is Mr. Floyd, he's a serial entrepreneur, right? He has all great ideas, a visionary, And a lot of the properties that we own now still, we would purchase, we would live, he would fix it, and then we would move on to the next one. But I knew that I wanted a forever home. And I knew I wanted something that felt good and that I could regenerate, where our families could come together. And so I set up an alert on realtor.com, and I got this alert that it was this house, waterfront. And I was like, I saw it online, and I'm like, what? Prince, come on, let's go ride down. And we just, on a fluke, got in the car. So we drive down the street. And when we came down this street, it was very quiet. I think we were playing opera music that day in the car. And we drove to the end of the cul-de-sac, and we got to the property. The property was trashed, meaning the roof was collapsed. The windows there was no windows. It looked like animals. It was the most horrible property that you could ever imagine. But when I got to the end of the cul-de-sac, I tingled from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. It felt like every nerve in my body was
Activated.
like I felt electricity in my body. And so I said, okay, this is my house. And it's like, you know how you get a glimpse into the future? I looked at a house, even though it was trash, it looked like a pristine, white, beautiful vision. And I turned to him at that moment and I said, look, whatever you got to do,
Figure it out.
I want this house. And he looked at me like, what? You want that house? And I said,
no.
This is our house. And it had only been on the market 4 days. We put it in the contract. We won.
What?
And here we are now.
He said, ho, ho.
Yeah.
That's all true, except the part that I didn't want this house.
You did not.
This house was probably the worst house.
And see, I would have thought you would have been the visionary,
No.
saw the vision from the beginning.
was a
I
lot. It was a
saw
lot.
all
You
the
saw trash.
work. Well, that, and I saw the work that I was gonna have to do. I said, this is gonna take me years, because when I do things, I want to do it
Right.
correct. I want to do it right. I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability, and I didn't want it. I said, "Are you sure?" I was just talking to her. No.
Wait. So you said, are you sure? Or were you immediately like, are you crazy?
I really didn't want. I said, all this work, this house. You know, I just didn't.
So
he didn't
describe
say
the
that.
work.
He didn't say that when I told him.
He just said, okay.
He
No.
just looked at me and I
I
was
was like, I was walking through this house. I'm looking around. I'm just thinking about, it's gonna take about 30 weeks to do this, and I'm just calculating all the time and what needs to be done. That's what I'm looking at. She's looking at the view, just of the landscape. I'm looking at all the structure and what needs to be done.
And the damage.
The damage was like the big thing, and I was like, this house is a haunted house, like Scooby-Doo.
But I wasn't looking at the structure. I was looking at how it made me feel. The peace you feel when you look, when you take a deep breath, how it regenerates your mind. The hope it gives other people once it's restored. That's why I wanted this house.
The possibility.
Yeah, the possibilities. Not even the look, but how it made you feel. That's why I wanted it.
And then, so what made you come around? Well, actually, even before you tell me what made you come around, describe some of the damage. I mean, I've heard the roof was collapsed.
I was
So
in this
bad.
room, where we sitting now, we had to replace all these windows. All the windows had to replace. I say we had to replace
It's like
The
we
majority
built,
of the
it's like
house.
we built a new house. That's what it feels like.
We probably put we put some money into this house.
What about the
Mom.
floor? It's like, did y'all at least have good floors? Like, was there any part of the house that was like good?
I would say I would say the only part of the house that I would say was good was probably the guest house.
Right, and the structure.
So not even the main house.
No.
No.
Wow.
So the floors were rotten. You could see
Straight through.
You could
It
see
was
the
water
ground.
damage. It was water damage.
There were holes throughout the property. The floors had to be, repaired. So everything was repaired. Everything you see is new, basically.
So would you say that this particular property potentially brought down the property value of the community at that time?
I would say over the years, as we did work to the house, I would see people that was trying to sell their house. The realtor would bring them through here, or when I check online, I start seeing how all the values,
what's going up?
The people values start going up. But I would get compliments from some of the neighbors, but yeah.
Yeah, but the state that the house was in when we purchased it, it was an eyesore to the community. I'm sure, because it was such a huge undertaking for anyone to take. Most people aren't willing to take that risk, but you got to remember, Floyd's he's a risk taker.
And so are you, because it was your vision.
Yeah. So, but I am a calculated risk taker. He's a visionary that gives me the fuel to take the risk. So I'll calculate the risk financially, but he will fuel it and be like, yes, we can do this. These are the people in place to do this. And so we said, okay, we can do this with the networks we have, the clients we have who can do the work. All of the things you see here were done by
people
Black-owned businesses.
Oh wow!
I say the majority.
The gates, all of that. Yeah, the majority of the work.
Now the purchasing process. Now I know we kind of ran through that. Like it was easy, it was quick.
That was pretty tough.
It was tough
because I was able to negotiate the deal. They seemed inadvertently like they didn't want us to purchase the house.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, the sellers. It was problems. It was problems with the purchase, getting started. We ended up just going, as steps was going on, just different obstacles was coming up, but we just kept meeting them,
right.
And until we got to the point whereas it was a ratified contract. And once we got the ratified contract, the bank wouldn't allow us to purchase the house without some work being done. So
on behalf of the seller.
Well, the work had to be done by us.
Oh, so
203K loan. We had to get a 203K loan because the bank is saying, hey, we'll approve you for this house, but there's certain things that has to be done because we're not going to approve the loan.
But the contract was already ratified at that point.
The contract
so it became your responsibility to fulfill.
Correct.
Okay.
So once I went through, I did a estimate. I do this all the time for insurance claims and things like that. So I did the estimate of what it would cost. So once I came back with an estimate, then once they saw the sellers, they saw like how much money it was. They said, they kind of like put us in the trick. We're like, well, okay, we're going to do the remodels, which is unheard of. The seller doing the work to a 2 or 3K loan, which is for the purchaser, not the seller. But the way they did it, almost like, if we don't do the remodels, this sale is not going to go through.
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
And so I agreed. I agreed just for the sake of she wanted the home and our realtor. I just said, okay, let them
do it.
Yep, let them do it. And ultimately, they did probably a third. They took they took all the money, but they only probably spent about a third. I could count for only about a third of what they actually did to the house.
So the purchase of the home was at the height of COVID.
Yeah.
So wait a second.
2020.
We're gonna rewind.
Yeah.
All right. So the estimate came in. The money was clearly
100,
there.
roughly 100.
Right.
Out
But
back.
okay, fine. 100K, right? You agreed to have them do it, but you had to give them the money to.
Correct. They somehow or another, for the sake of argument, because again,
Oh, so they
were
felt
pulling-
like they were getting an extra 100K,
They-
and
that's
they only
they were
spent
put-
33,000.
Correct. So they basically put us so much between our, I guess, the width of what our realtor was saying to us, and what we were getting from the
Insurance
from
or
the
the loan.
from the sellers. There, and so it's almost like we had to let them do the work, because if not, they could sabotage the deal.
Yeah.
It was almost like that. So not until we found out we was about to close, we do a walkthrough. Now I'm coming down here every day. I'm sneaking. I'm coming down here and I'm managing. I'm like, hey, you putting flat paint in the wet
Bathroom?
area? It's semi-gloss. So I'm down here critiquing them and telling them what they can. I had paint of my own. I'm giving it to them. And then they told on me. The people that was in here working. So they told my brother, hey,
Keep him
tell
away.
him he can't come back down. So I'm still coming down here checking on the house, and seeing what's being done. And I explained to Angela, I said, they're not doing none of the work.
Yeah.
They're not done. They're not doing the things they're supposed to do.
And why can't you? The contract is
They had the
ratified, and you're
had the
paying
money.
it technically.
Yeah.
They're just executing the job.
They didn't want me down here because I figured
Because you
found out
can-
later why. Because they just did just the bare minimum,
Just so the deal
just so
can be
the
through.
deal can go through, and they kept the rest of the money.
Whew. All right. Okay. So now you have the home. You start doing the work. How long did it take you guys before you were able to actually move in here?
I think I did
Two months.
No, I'd say at least 60 to 90 days. 60 to 90 days.
Okay. So even
get
in
it
that time,
moving.
I'm sure you're here. I'm sure you're coming by, making sure that the contractors are doing what they're doing and all
Every day
that.
I'm here every day.
Right.
Every day.
So what was that like? Like, kind of twofold. Being here, having your dream realized, but then were there any encounters that you guys had with the neighbors at that point?
So 2020 was the height of COVID, and our daughter was graduating from
One
high school. One of our daughters was graduating from high school. I waited 20 years for her to walk across the stage, right? But it was COVID, so graduation was canceled. So we had gotten this house, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna see my daughter walk across somebody's stage. So we said, okay, we'll just have our own mock graduation at our house. So Mr. Floyd worked tirelessly to get us into this house so we could have our fake graduation for our daughter.
No, it was a real graduation.
It was a real, we
And with
called
her
it a real
friends.
graduation.
And had
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
my god kids and some
Right.
of her friends.
Right.
I had their family come as well.
So we all put our chicken and our fruit trays together, and we held a fake graduation in our
It was
backyard.
a real graduation.
It was a graduation.
We had
It was her real
commencement- we had
graduation.
commencement
And so-
speakers and everything.
And so at that time, we had not, that was our first run-in with our neighbors calling the police. And this was 90 days, about 90 days.
Wait, what do you
after we
mean your
moved in.
first run in? Well, okay.
Yeah.
So the house is done.
It's
Not done.
It's not
But
done.
it's
Livable.
It's
livable.
It's livable.
Yeah, because we're still working on this
Yeah, we
house.
still.
Okay, so it was a livable conditions. People are able to come. You have this event for your daughter and family and friends. And the police got called on you?
Yeah, graduation.
Yeah. So that's
During the graduation.
during the
Yeah, during
graduation.
graduation.
Okay.
So they started getting calls from people in the neighborhood, and this was on our property. We were on our own private
Premises, yeah.
property where we pay our mortgage,
And taxes.
Yeah, not a party. We were having a graduation for our daughter. So that's when it started. But we didn't know that they were calling the police until,
Well, but also the permits too.
yeah, but I didn't know they were calling the police until probably 2021. So the
Okay.
calls started, but we didn't know they had started.
So before we go into that, we're gonna stay here for a little bit. Did you ever have any experiences like, like on television, we see people like they move into a new neighborhood, the neighbor brings pie, or the neighbor comes by like, hey, if you ever need anything, we're here. Did you ever receive like a warm welcome from your neighbors?
It was like
I had one neighbor come by or
Really?
knock on my door, and we weren't home that day. And I
Still
saw her on the video
we
camera.
still don't know who she
But
is.
I still don't know to
don't
this
know
day
this
who she
person
was. But that was the only neighbor from 2020 until
present day.
now that knocked on our door to say, "Hi, welcome to the neighborhood."
Well, she left a note
Yeah, she left a note on the door.
with some cookies or something.
Yeah.
All right. So this is segment 1. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in to Who's Really Disturbing the Peace. And segment 2, we're going to really delve into what it's like to feel targeted, or better yet, being Black in a white house. Join us next time.